Let's learn what free motion quilting is. So most of the time when you're sewing on a sewing machine, you don't actually move the fabric. It is these little guys down here called the feed dogs that move the fabric as you sew. But in free motion quilting, you have a lot of these loop-de-doops where it goes in all sorts of different directions. And as anyone who has sewn on a sewing machine knows, getting these kinds of curves when you're using your feed dogs doesn't work very well. So what happens in free motion quilting is you are the one moving the fabric around, not the sewing machine with those feed dogs. So we got to take those feed dogs out of play. You can either do this by lowering your stitch length to 0, putting a cover over these feed dogs to keep them from being able to be used. I apologize, I cannot show it because I don't have one. Dropping your feed dogs all together. And I did that using a little thingamabob at the back of my machine. You can find yours by looking at your manual. Or what I do, using an embroidery machine that has a free motion quilting kit. And as you can see, this embroidery machine straight up just does not have any feed dogs at all. You also have to switch your presser foot to something called a darning foot or a free motion quilting foot. And this foot will just kind of hover over the fabric. It won't really be pressing down on it very hard. When you start quilting, you still have to lock your stitches in somehow, and I prefer to do this by just sewing 2 or 3 times on the spot. This creates a little bit of a knot, and it will in fact hold it in place. You can also do the method of tying a knot, but that's very annoying. And then afterwards, I can just move this fabric in order to do my quilting. The reason I do most of it on this machine is because of this giant extension table, which lets me work very easily. With a machine like this, I'd have to shove the remainder of the quilt underneath this throat space, which is annoying. And it is even more annoying when I have a small domestic machine, because look how small this is. I have to fit up to half my quilt at a time underneath this space. So a lot of sewing machines specifically made for quilters will have a larger throat space. Now, one of the challenges with free motion quilting is regulating your stitch length, because I am still controlling the foot pedal, which means I control how fast this needle goes up and down, but I'm also moving the fabric, which means I have to manually control the stitch length. As you can see, in some spots, it is not quite as consistent as I would like it to be. You also have to be careful of doing any jumps where I go from this stitch all the way like over to over here by accident, which I actually cannot find any examples of in this current quilt here, because I guess I got good enough at this that I don't really see any. And one way that a modern machine that I do not have, called a long arm, can fix this is that a long arm often comes with a stitch length regulator, which means it will automatically adjust how fast up and down the needle goes to accommodate for how fast you're moving the fabric. Although in the case of a long arm, you're not technically moving the fabric is in like an entire frame, and you're moving the machine itself. This stitch design right here is called stipple quilting, where none of the lines cross each other. And this is something I like to call loop-de-loops. Have fun quilting!